Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. UGRO Capital. Empowering MSME Ecosystem.
Hello and welcome to this very special episode titled UGRO Capital Empowering MSME Ecosystem. Today we take a close look at India's MSME sector's growing credit needs and how a first-of-its-kind digital solution is here to provide the support that they seek. Take a look.
India has over 63 million small and medium enterprises, and they are one of the largest employment providers in India. They account for nearly 50% of the country's exports. The MSME network contributes 30% to the nominal gross domestic product and 48% to exports. Fintech companies have played as pioneers to introduce effective financial products for the MSMEs.
Right, with such a strong impact on the economy, there is now more than ever a strong need to digitize the sector to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of these businesses. UGRO Capital, a leading lending platform based on the combination of knowledge and technology, endeavors to become a new age lender committed to alleviating the credit gaps in India's SME sector. So today we are joined in our studio by Mr. Sachindra Nath, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of UGRO Capital, to talk more about this. Mr. Nath, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's talk first about the UGRO journey so far. So take us through the key waypoints.
UGRO came out of the aspiration to serve the need of MSME and to be a drop in the ocean in elevating the gap. In 2018, we created this franchise wherein through a listed company, we raised roughly around 1,000 crore of equity capital from some marquee global institutional investors. And idea was that the traditional problem of not being able to assess credit on traditional method can be changed by using data sciences, which was about to emerge in 2018, and being able to serve the need of every small businesses in timely fashion. It is less about credit, it is more about the timely credit which is required. And over a period of last 5 years or 4 years, while we have seen the multiple crises of lending institutions, crisis of COVID, but I'm happy to tell you that we have now served more than 47,000 plus customers with 6,300 crore of outstanding book, and we have been growing and serving the needs of customer on every passing day.
Take us through how technology has helped you improve yourself so far and how you see it improving in the next stage.
I would try to describe, what has changed. I keep giving this example. Think of 10 years back or 8 years back, you go to a small business and say, I want to give you a loan, right? And the small business say कि बहुत अच्छी बात है, आप लोन दे दीजिए, but मेरा सारा टर्नओवर कच्चे में है, मेरा खर्चा पक्के में है और मेरा मार्जिन मुझे पता नहीं है. Now think of a lender, if he doesn't know what your real margin is, what is your actual cash on the balance sheet, and what is your ability to service the loan, you will end up only asking for collateral. Now that has changed. While I keep saying that most of small businesses actually don't like GST, don't like regulation, but actually the formalization of economy which is happening at a very fast pace. So today, if I have to give a loan to a customer, within minutes, I can assess the three things of lending: the intent of the customer, his eligibility, and his ability to pay. And these three things come from the combination of when I pull his GST turnover data for last 2 years, when I pull his digitized banking and I look at fetch his bureau, and then surround that with multiple other data set which is available for that customer. Within minutes, I can tell what and how much, or when and how much this customer can afford. And I think so that would change the landscape of MSME credit in India. Today, when you walk in a Chroma store, you buy a fridge, you can buy it in 10 minutes time with credit. But for a small business to get a credit against a 10 lakh rupees of an order is a 3 month of pain. But this would change. And a small business getting an order of 10 lakh rupees would get a credit on an instant basis at the same time when he is receiving the order. And once that happens, there is an explosion of credit which will happen for a small business.
Take us through the innovations landscape which is helping transform this credit market for MSMEs.
Yeah. So I think so this has started with what we call India Stack 1 and now it changed into India Stack 2. who would have thought that you can buy a piece of a cigarette, not even a pack of cigarette, by your mobile phone just few years back, right? And so I think so first and foremost for consumer, whether it's a small business or a retail consumer, the trust on digital ecosystem has gone manifold. And obviously COVID has helped us, and all of that has helped us. Now, basis that people being comfortable sharing data through a digital ecosystem, and that data being used to provide credit is actually making life much more easier. It is gradually alleviating the need of physical infrastructure, have face-to-face interaction. And once this data get formalized and lenders or anyone being able to use that is what would change the landscape big time. And number of innovation which can be done around credit is humongous actually. We are dedicated only to small businesses and only do business lending. I think to a large extent when it comes to the consumer financing piece, the lot of innovation has happened. As I said, you can walk into any store and you can buy
you can even slice it, right?
Of course, you can buy a jeans on EMI, you can buy a shoe on EMI, you can, everything on a marketplace is available on EMI. But that now will get translated to small businesses as well. So if you are, buying a machine, you need a 3-year loan or you need a credit just for a day or sometimes even for an hour. Think of a very small shop owner and, who sells, grocery. And the guy has come to deliver him a pack of grocery, and at that time when he opens his drawer, there is no money. But if at the same time he can get money within minutes and can pay his guy, and when the next customer comes and give him the money, he can pay back his loan, think that what is.
Absolutely.
So, today in our innovation, we are saying we can, can take loan for a day. But the real innovation would be when you can take money for hours actually. And that would actually improve the credit profile and also working capital requirement for a small business.
On that note, we'll take a very, very short break, but stay with us as we broaden the scope of our conversation around the latest innovation that UGRO Capital has designed for SME lending. Stay tuned.
UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem. UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem.
Welcome back to this special episode titled UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem. And we have with us Mr. Nath to take us through the various contours of MSME lending and the numerous possibilities that have emerged. We spoke, Mr. Nath, about these possibilities in the previous segment. And now I want to take a more granular approach, say the use cases that you see, especially for MSME lending, which is going to help make the lives of these entrepreneurs much more easier. What do you think the lending space is going to offer for them in terms of use cases?
Think of a use case of I am, selling something on Amazon. I'm a small business and all of a sudden it's Diwali and my volume has grown because people are buying more from that. And I need the working capital for next 7 days or 10 days. Now, I can't go to the bank and wait for 1 year assessment period to be over, and I need credit for that. So, the first use case is that you have a lender who can lend you basis your transaction which is happening between you and the marketplace and your historical cash flow. And this can be today done very, very easily because you can combine his turnover data, you can combine his bank data, you can combine his transaction with the marketplace, and basis that give a specific credit for a particular period of time. For a small merchant, when they are buying goods, when all of a sudden think of somebody coming from a tier 3 town to a city like Bombay, and he has carried only say 1 lakh rupee because he want to buy something. And all of a sudden he goes into the market and say there is a discount of 50% going on in the merchant. But he doesn't know how to do this because his OD limit is full. He doesn't have cash in a bank. Can you provide credit at that point of time? And what would be the method of doing that? So, I would think that now the MSME financing would move towards what we call the transactional data flow. So, Government of India has this great initiative which is going on, which is called GST Sahay. So, in fact, UGRO has done the pilot on what is called GEM Sahay. GEM is the government marketplace for procurement of all the public sector enterprises. For every order which a PSU gives to an MSME, he gets financing in next 5 minutes with the order. When the GST Sahay would come, every time you will raise an invoice which is on the GST portal, you can get financing against that invoice. And that is an ecosystem which is the e-way bill and GST, and the lenders would get created.
And it encourages compliance as well, because
Of course,
there's value
of
to
course.
be gained by
I
following
keep
the
saying that you can earn 10% margin of a business which is 50% in cash and 50% in non-cash, save 30% tax on the non-cash, or you can increase your turnover itself by 5x by getting credit, and your 10% margin actually becomes 50%, right?
Absolutely.
So I think so over a period of time, and we are seeing it every passing day, MSMEs are seeing the benefit of being part of the formal economy and digital economy. So you will see, the compliance just by motivation or the incentive of being able to avail credit would go up multiple fold in next few years.
Sometimes the entrepreneur might get, might be daunted by the prospect of this credit process. They might think it's very complicated. So if I just take the example of GrowX, how do, say, a lot of these SME entrepreneurs, how do they avail this line of credit? Take us through the mechanics of what goes through in a typical credit transaction and how you make it easier.
For last 5 years, since the inception of UGRO in our journey, all the work which we did was very, inner, self-looking work. Because we wanted to first the problem of solving the credit. How do we give credit and what is the best method of doing that? So we set up a large data analytics team, large tech team, and we experimented on the data set of GST, banking and bureau. And today we said we have an ability to give a credit approval within our internal system within first 60 minutes of any form of loan. But then we realized that this is good for us because we are being able to reduce our credit cost, select good credit and generate a very high quality portfolio. But what it is doing for my customer was unknown. And then we realized that we have to solve the customer problem and customer need. And most of small businesses customer, we realized that they have the problem of this instant credit and not to be burdened for a cost which is a long tenor cost. So today I might need 5 lakh rupees of credit, tomorrow I might need only 2 lakh rupees of credit. But if I end up taking a term loan from an NBFC or a bank, I will end up paying interest for the full period of cycle. And that's why we thought of combining our power of data analytics, which is the scores which we create, and the UPI. And we felt if you can buy a cigarette, through an UPI, or buy a pan through a UPI, or buy a very small thing, why can't we dispense credit through UPI? So the GrowX app is, you just simply download it, you input few things, our system would fetch all the credit related information automatically. You don't have to do anything, you have to just give consent, and basis that a credit limit is loaded onto your mobile phone. Now whenever you want to use it, you use it through a UPI. You just scan the QR code and money get dispersed.
It's seamless for them.
Of course. And more importantly, you can pay back. So I was in my previous segment, we were giving this example that all of a sudden, you have a supplier who has come and delivered material and you have to pay him 10,000. Please do that by through a QR code. But when the day ends and you have done the sale, you please return the loan.
You reconcile it day to day. So
of course. So you are loaded only for the cost for the period when you avail the credit. And so availability of credit on tap and being able to service its cost only for the period of time when you have availed, I think so it's a game changer for small businesses in India.
Broadly looking at the SME universe, because you spoke of the pandemic, so in that context, the pandemic affected large parts of the economy, and of course MSMEs were also affected. But there was also some provision from policymakers to support them, a revamped credit guarantee scheme, and I believe in the budget this year, they got a 9,000 crore rupee scheme announced for them. So your thoughts on that? Do you think it stabilizes the sector from that COVID shock?
Of course. I think so India is among those rare countries wherein the sector which got fully or heavily supported was MSME, and rightfully so, because this is a sector which employs more than 11 crore people, which means roughly around 25 families or members are dependent upon this, and that's why it always need to be well supported, and that's why you will see there is a general policy dispensation to support MSMEs. In India, small businesses survived because we provided emergency credit line, RBI provided moratorium, so on and so forth. And that's why the revival, into small business was fastest. One, it's a function of Indian entrepreneurship. Small entrepreneurs, because this is his livelihood business, survives and then thrives, right? So they could come back much quickly because they had no choice, and second, there was massive government support. And I think so this continues. So there's recent allocation of credit guarantee scheme. While the absolute number looks very small, 9,000 crore, but remember this 9,000 crore you should multiply it by at least 15 times, because this is the budgetary allocation of the money which have been given to the trust. But trust provide guarantee to lenders many folds of that. And the risk weight of a guaranteed loan of to MSME in banking system and NBFC is 0. So we don't have to provide any capital once we take a guarantee, right? So in which country and any MSME without any credit profiling done, a government of India saying that up to 75% of your loan is guaranteed by us, right? So this is huge, I think so, people have to really see the potential and its impact to the MSME economy.
Absolutely. Look beyond the numbers, and hopefully we see much more greater participation in the SME space and a large amount of growth coming from them, considering they already power a significant part of the India growth engine. On that note, though, it's time to take a very short break again, but stay with us as we discuss and explore UGRO's plans for MSMEs even further. Stay tuned.
UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem. UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem.
Welcome back to this special episode of UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem. Mr. Nath, thank you for joining back. Now, I want to understand from you, I believe UGRO has managed to raise 9,500 million rupee in capital. How did you manage that? And of course, how do you continue to diversify your services? If you can take us through the contours of the business itself at UGRO.
It's very difficult to answer how we were able to raise that size of capital without actually having that business. But I think so it was a combination of the idea, which was powerful, and our conviction and commitment of building India's largest small business financing platform. We had this view that this is a segment of the market which has not been a mainline segment for large banks and large NBFC. We have not seen any financial institution which says that we have done 1 lakh crore or 2 lakh crore of MSME financing, and there is an opportunity. And fortunately, some of the large institutional investor could see that opportunity and backed us. So we are thankful to them. In terms of what we want to diversify, we are of a very firm view that MSME segment itself is such a non-homogeneous sector. We only do 9 sectors out of 106 sectors and 100 sub-sector. So the opportunity to build a very robust, large ecosystem within MSME itself is too large. So we don't want to diversify anything beyond our small business financing. But within that, we would like over a period of time to bring more and more innovative lending products and then add on services which are value add to them, right? Obviously, that's a long term dream that if a customer is taking a loan from us for all of his other needs, which is financial, we should be able to through partnership be able to service. But right now for next 3 to 4 years, our focus is that whether you have a need of a 1 lakh rupee or you have a need of 3 crore rupees, whether you want a 1-day loan or whether you want a 10-year loan, whether you have collateral or whether you don't have collateral, we should be able to service your capital need in the most timely and efficient manner. And I think so that's a mission which is too big, and we are working very hard to achieve that.
All right. But in response to that, I would add that you mentioned that the entire SME sector is non-homogeneous. So even from a digital perspective, in terms of digital enlightenment, there's still a lot of differences in areas. Some areas you'll find very tech-savvy entrepreneurs, very, who are comfortable with new, modern, innovative services being offered to them. And in the other, you will find owners who don't even know how to use the basic services. So in this sort of bridging the digital gap which sort of exists for a lot of the SMEs, how do you plan to offer services which works for everyone? It's easier for those who are familiar with digital, but for those who are unfamiliar with digital, how do you plan to convince them?
So it is about how do you create an interface which doesn't look digital, right? So now today, and I keep giving this example that anyone can become an Uber or an Ola driver in a city of Bombay. Otherwise, some years back, it was prerogative of very few. And that is happening because you have a map system of Google which anyone can use it, right? So everyone is a digital. It's just a matter of fact whether you realize or you don't realize it. So GrowX actually is an example. You don't need to be digital. As long as you have used one app of any nature on your phone, you'll be able to use this app itself. And I don't think so that the digital awareness in any of the segment is so low that, our customers are business customers. All of them do some form of a business, and all of them use mobile phone, and all of them use, some another app. So I don't see that's a challenge. Actually, the data and the digitization is helping to serve the non-homogeneous customer. When I say non-homogeneous, which means two types of doctor, a dentist and an IVF clinic, are two different doctor, credit has to be looked at differently. Now, for every front end credit officer or a salesperson to have that knowledge is difficult, but this can be automated by back end, because data can define what should be looked for that customer. So I think so that is what the game changer is. When I pull somebody's GST, the GST and numbers tell me the type and nature of the customer, and whether it is a 10% margin business or a 20% margin business. So I think so it's a very exciting science which is now evolving when it comes to the credit for small businesses.
All right. Mr. Nath, before we let you go, what's your message to our viewers, many of whom would be from that MSME ecosystem? A lot of the talking points that we have discussed so far, what's the key takeaway, in your opinion, that the MSME ecosystem should take away from this conversation?
I would again say the same thing. The digital awareness and openness to be part of the formal economy is the key to your success. So please don't hesitate. Don't think about what you could save in form of doing a transaction in a non-GST way, because remember, you may save the 18% of GST tax by buying and selling your goods in cash, but that 18% which you are paying today on a GST transaction can make sure that you get a credit of 2x of your turnover, right? So I think so for being part of the formal economy and being digitally enabled and open to data is what would explode your business, and please be ready for that.
Well, join the formal economy and reap the benefits. That's the message coming from Mr. Nath in this discussion. Mr. Nath, thank you so much for joining us in this conversation, and we wish you all the best for UGRO as a business and, of course, its role in growing this ecosystem, and all the best for innovations like GrowX as well. We hope the MSME ecosystem reaches new horizons thanks to such solutions. Thank you so much, and thank you to our viewers for tuning in as well. Till next time, this is your host Gautam Srinivasan signing off. Have a great day.
UGRO Capital, empowering MSME ecosystem. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.